Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are a spiritually diverse, justice-seeking, religious community proclaiming the power of love at the core of our living tradition. Love of neighbor, love of ourselves, and love of the planet. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you identify, you are welcome here. I am Debra Smith, and along with Patricia Heeb, we are your celebrants this morning, and we are so glad you are here with us today. So let's take a moment to welcome our online community, those joining us via Zoom. Turn around and wave at the camera. And go ahead and look at your friends and wave to them here. And let's look at all of those up there and wave to them. They'll wave back even though, yeah. Hi, there we go. Hello, everybody. Zoom friends, we are so glad to see your beautiful faces. And a special welcome to our newcomers, those joining us for the first or second time, those of you on Zoom. We know it takes a lot of courage to check out a new community, and we are glad you have chosen us. Now, those of you on Zoom, we invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat, and we will include you in the next few newsletters and let you know everything that's going on in this community. And I'd like to point out 3 things right off the bat. First of all, prepare yourself to attend the winter town hall meeting. That's February 9th, right after service. We are going to be discussing the narrowed down options for what to do with the property we own on Chelan. We've owned this property for a number of years, and we are trying to decide, we've kind of decided that we will probably sell it, but what the disposition will look like and what the impact will do to our funding. So be sure to stay around for that, February 9th. Inquirers begins today. This is a session to learn more about us, and it is a path to membership. And we invite you to grab a cup of coffee in our hospitality space and then take it to the Channing Room in the South Hall. Please look forward to our auction. We are having an auction this year. Last year we didn't have one. And we will have both an online silent auction, a children's silent auction, woohoo, and this year a live auctioneer. So yeah, we're going to have a celebration dinner. And of course, we need people to contribute to the auction. So if you're downsizing, give us a call. I have forms in the hospitality space, and there you can volunteer to cook for the event too. We're having a curated potluck. So lots coming. That's March 1st. Okay. So there are many opportunities to get involved, and come and find out more about them after the service in the hospitality space.
Each week we begin our service centering ourselves by lighting our flaming chalice, a symbol of free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. I invite, we've got our chalice lit here in the sanctuary, and I invite you in the virtual community to, if you have a chalice nearby, to light your chalice now and enter into the chat where it is lit this morning. We're going to join in singing now in your gray hymnal, number 191. Now I recall my childhood.
This hymn may be new to some of us, so those of you who know how to read music, you might want to grab a hymnal, and Liza will play it one time through for all of us.
Rise in body or spirit.
We come from and live on land considered sacred by many indigenous peoples, known as Bannock, Shoshone, Paiute, and many other tribes that lived here sustainably for thousands of years, inhabiting a vast region including much of Idaho.
We recognize the long history of the land, long before colonization, and acknowledge the ancient tribes whose names have been lost in history.
With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate our commitment to dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. We honor Indigenous peoples' connection to the land and support their right to sovereignty.
In the challenges of these truths, may we move through the world bringing justice in every way that we can, listening to the truths spoken to us by Native American peoples, making space for them to re-inhabit this place, and giving them back the resources they need to heal their communities.
Our spiritual theme for the month of January is living love through the practice of story. Oh. What a story this week has been. A horror story. But we're going to take a break from this today, even as I acknowledge how truly awful and terrifying the week's events have been. Today's service honors the contributions of our elders, as told through the perspective of two of them. May these stories enrich young and old alike and offer some sort of respite that comes perhaps from our years of experience. As we enter into this time of worship, let us take a moment to breathe together. Fill your body with breath, knowing that our breath connects us to one another, to our bodies, and to our planet. Our breath offers us the opportunity for stillness, to tune into our spiritual center, to listen deeply to our heart's own longing. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-driven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
Wasn't that magnificent? As we dedicate the service this morning to the elders among us, our call to worship is from our adopted elder, Mary Oliver. Who else? What can I say? What can I say that I have not said before? So I'll say it again. The leaf has a song in it. Stone is the face of patience. Inside the river, there is an unfinished story, and you are somewhere in it. And it will never end until all ends. Take your busy heart to the Art Museum and the Chamber of Commerce, but take it also to the forest. The song you heard singing in the leaf when you were a child is still singing. I am of years lived so far, 74, and the leaf is still singing. Come, let us worship together. With our promise of building beloved community, we celebrate our commitments to being a multi-generation congregation and a community of generosity and a community of care and connection. So in that spirit, I would like to invite all of our children to come up because it is story time, time for all ages. Children, come forth.
We're going to come on this side. I know. We change around all the time. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Again, I'm Travis, and I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here, and I've got a story. But before I do that, I want to let all the families know that afterwards, we're actually going to have our own sort of hospitality social hour in the RE room. So we've got snacks and cookies and drinks. So if you guys want to come in and hang out afterwards, come on over. Okay. So, this month we've been talking about stories. And this is a story about a man with a story. A story about a man with a story. So once upon a time there was a man who had a story. And this was his story. It was not like, some old once upon a time. This was a story about him. This is a story that started before he was even born. It's a story about his dreams, about his imaginations, and to him it was complete. There was nothing else to add to the story. And he carried it around with him, and he carried it tight, and he wanted to make sure it was safe all the time. And it was kind of bulky, and it was kind of unwieldy. It was kind of hard to carry. This was his story. This was his story. Yeah, it's like a man, and he's got a tree, I think, and what?
It looks kind of like an eagle.
And,
I don't know why, like a totem.
oh, it's like a totem pole or an eagle, kind of, yeah. And this was his story, and he carried it around everywhere, but it was kind of hard to carry around. It's hard to put in a backpack because it was pretty fragile, right? Pretty hard to carry around. And, and he worried, of course, that because it was fragile, that it might break. And then he held it closer and closer. And he went about his life. He checked on the story all the time. In fact, he avoided adventure. He avoided things out of the ordinary. It made him less brave because he didn't want his story to ever change. Right? And then one day, the inevitable happened. His story broke. You never know how far when a story breaks. You never know how far the pieces are going to fall, right? And he was heartbroken. All of these pieces he's been collecting for years and years, they were just a pile on the floor. Thanks, guys. Okay, all right. Just hold them right now, but thanks, guys. Oh, okay. I'll tell you what we're going to do with it. There's more to this story. But you know, part of the story that he had, there was no instructions on how to put the story back together again. He never thought he would have to. And so he sat down and he looked at the pieces just sitting there on the ground. And he cried and he lamented. And a while later, it could have been minutes, it could have been hours, he doesn't know. People started coming out. And they looked at the man and he was sad. And they looked at the broken pieces of his story. What happened here? A woman asked. She says, my story, it's gone. I worked so hard to build it, to protect it, and keep it from harm, and it's gone. This is the story here, said a man. He says, yes, but there's nothing left of it. Nothing, just pieces. And a child said, look, it looks like it's here. It's not gone. We just have to put it back together. Put it back together? There's no way. You don't even know what it looks like. How will you put it back together? You don't even know me. But the child was tenacious. Don't worry, she said. With all of us here, we'll help you put it back together in a way that would be, and they helped them put it back together in a way they would never expect. And so they swept all the pieces up, which most of you have already done, thank you. They poured him some coffee, and they gave him some cookies, and they sang him a song. And the song was soothing, and the coffee was warm, and he started to feel hope again. And it took a long time, and maybe days, and maybe years. And I have a volunteer here, Addie. We're going to give all of the pieces to Addie. Let's give all of our pieces to Addie. And they added new parts. And there were new parts. Put it back together however you see fit. They added new parts. And some of the parts were old and they just didn't fit anymore. But it was okay, because the little one had been right. It was different, but it was beautiful. And to him, it was actually even more beautiful than it was before. And this time, the story wasn't so fragile. And it wasn't held together by just his imagination. It was held together by the imagination of the whole community. And to them, and now it became their story. Let's take a look at our new story. Oh, it looks great, Addie. Lego. It does. Awesome. All right. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
That didn't happen. That didn't happen. We're rewriting the story. Exactly, we're a community. We can fix the story again and again and again, right? All right, there it is. All right. That's the story. All right. All right, we're ready to head on out. Let's sing our song.
When we give, we say yes to the natural cycle of abundance in our lives, and we say yes to building beloved communities within, beyond, and beyond our walls. We commit ourselves to do the work for justice and compassion for all people and for our earth. Today, we share those gifts with our plate partner, who is the Agency for New Americans. Very timely. And I invite the ushers to come forward. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Will the ushers come forward? We bless these gifts so freely given. May generosity always be our companion as we walk the holy path toward greater good. Thank you.
Before we take part in the ritual of acknowledging our joys and sorrows, this morning we are inviting all of you to call out into this sacred space the name of someone whom you considered a beloved elder or a mentor to you when you were young. Ger. Someone who taught you something you've held on to all of these years. Mary Osterman. We honor their memory. Each week, we do take time to acknowledge the many joys among us and to grieve our many sorrows, so that we might lift the burden for each other and receive the blessing of this community. It is through our sharing with one another that we forge deep bonds, as you can see, of community and connection. And in that spirit this morning, we are inviting you to call out into this sacred space. Skip that. We begin by sharing these joys and sorrows. Joys. Ollie Newman is excited to be part of a group exhibition at the Initial Point Gallery on February 4th through the 28th. The opening reception will be February 4th at 4:30. That's in the Meridian City Hall building. Tony Corley reports that they are very pleased to share the news that the cancer is in remission. Yay. Thank you for those who have been keeping in their prayers. Eileen and Jim Gettings would like to announce the birth of their third grandchild, Maeve Eileen Johnson, daughter of their daughter Devon and Michael Johnson, on December 30th. And I have this sorrow. Robert Crum had a stroke at night in bed, January 22nd, leaving him with left side complications. However, by the 25th, he is showing great improvement and with swallowing and mobility. I think Jean is here this morning. There she is. Cards may be sent to the Crum family, and their address is in the directory. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to speak their name aloud into this community of love so that we may hold them with you. May we feel the grace in the room and be surrounded by the comforting feeling that we are not alone in sorrow, but held by our beloved community.
For my reflection this morning, I bring you some meandering memories and thoughts about age and elderhood. When I was 15 years old, I went to 4-H camp on Warm Lake to serve as a helper for the cooks. When I saw them for the first time, two large, white-haired old ladies with big spoons stirring things in big pots, my heart fell. They reminded me of that Shakespeare scene where those witches, or whatever they are, were chanting, "Double, double, boil in trouble," as they stirred a big pot of something. I was immediately homesick for more familiar scenes and wished that I had not agreed to do this job. Sad, isn't it, how teenagers think sometimes? Because by the time we had finished our first meal, I knew these two women were not witches, but were wonderful, kind, friendly, welcoming, hilarious, loving women. They made my week as a kitchen helper, a great experience, and certainly a great lesson in quick judgments and the reality of oldness. Another story comes to mind. When I was in my 30s or 40s, I was on a vacation that included a guided hike through the woods. What I remember about the occasion was that there was an 83-year-old woman in the group, and I worried to myself how she would make it up the hills and over the logs that might have fallen on the path. 83 years old. Turns out she did just fine. Decades later, now that I'm 83 and still able to climb hills and make it over the logs, I know clearly that age is just a number. It is not a definition or a description. Though vocabulary about aging really is kind of tricky. If you call me an elder, though it's not a term I use, I might think you're saying that I'm a respected older person. If you call me elderly, though I am, I'm not insulted, but I do see visions of decrepitude. I have come to see that getting old is much like puberty. I remember seeing my niece Kirsten when she was a 10-year-old, cute, sweet child. When I saw her the next time, just a few years later, she was a statuesque young woman. Different, but still the same person. And here we are, us old people. Still the same people, but different. Our bodies have changed, our time is used differently. We've experienced losses, successes, failures, great joys and sorrows, many adaptations, many political administrations. Our difference now is that, one difference now is that we have a lingering awareness of death. We know that we are in the last act of the play. For me, and we face that awareness with equanimity or fear or anticipation. There it goes. This is what old people do, you know? For me, I think of death with equanimity, if that's a word for not afraid, but not eager. Meanwhile, what's this talk about the wisdom of elders? I've always thought I was smart enough because I got good grades at school. But wisdom seems like a much loftier or more esoteric concept, not one I carry with my sense of identity. I don't go around thinking, oh, how wise I am, because I'm old. So I Googled it, the word wisdom, because that's what we do these days. And it said, ability to discern inner qualities and relationships, or insight, and good sense, judgment. Yes, we are wise. It's true. Our experiences over the years have given us good judgment and insight. We are wise.
Tell Me a Story by Robert Penn Warren. A. Long ago in Kentucky, I, a boy, stood by a dirt road in first dark and heard the great geese hoot northward. I could not see them, there being no moon and the stars sparse. I heard them. I did not know what was happening in my heart. It was the season before the elderberry blooms, therefore they were going north. The sound was passing northward. B. Tell me a story. In this century and moment of mania, tell me a story. Make it a story of great distances and starlight. The name of the story will be Time, but you must not pronounce its name. Tell me a story of deep delight. When I get old, I want to be like my Grandma Pope. Oh, I am older now than she was when I was forming memories of her that I now cherish. Never mind. Grandma was a woman who took her elderhood very seriously. Civic-minded, she watched Walter Cronkite every night and agreed with him when he finally spoke out against the Vietnam War. She hated Ronald Reagan because she loved FDR. She ironed the sheets you slept on when you stayed with her for the weekend. She made popovers slathered with homemade apricot jam and let you sleep in, and then invited you to drink coffee with her as she read the morning paper. She told corny jokes and cooked all the holiday meals, and you better believe all 4 of her children, their spouses, and her grandchildren came early and stayed late. I look back fondly on those halcyon days when the men sat around the table drinking creme de menthe and listened to Grandma's stories. She was a wonderful storyteller, and the women did the dishes. What can I say? Those were the rules. Children sat at the kids' table and then played hide and seek or otherwise kept out of the way. We'd never think of going anywhere else for holiday meals until we did go elsewhere for holiday meals. That is because the grandkids eventually had boyfriends or girlfriends, and being invited to that family's holiday dinners was a magical and significant turning point in the relationship, a coming-of-age marker on the way to adulthood. And when we married and had obligations elsewhere, Grandma Pope watched as her bursting house and all its merriment gradually shrunk. Then it was her turn to become just a guest, no longer the host. It was a coming-of-age marker for her, too, but she bore it graciously. She had already come to terms with letting go. The husband lost to illness at the age of 40. Her once unified country that had defeated the Nazis torn apart by the Vietnam War. Friends lost to cancer, a disease so ominous, I watched elders whisper the word. She had been let go of things. Not that we ever come to terms with letting go of particular things. We bear the grief of each departure, each disappointment, each death. But we come to terms with the inevitability of letting go. And we achieve a little grace in that. And wise children watch this. They take it in before they even know how much they will need it later. Grandma showed me how to do this, to hold fast and let go. I think that may be the very definition of elderhood. It's a paradox that we need to learn to negotiate. Some of us are slower learners than others. In his poem, "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night," Dylan Thomas begs his father to hold fast, to rage against the dying of the light. When I was younger, I was so impressed with the defiant tone of this poem that I named my son after the poet. Dylan Thomas died at the age of 39. I often wondered if he'd have written a different poem had he lived into his elderhood. Might he, too, have seen the beauty in the terrible negotiation we elders have to make between holding fast and letting go? I have recently been experiencing waves of intense love that sweep over me. I'm calling it untimely nostalgia. Untimely because I'm experiencing nostalgia for all the things I will miss when my body is no longer here or no longer fully able to participate in the thing we call life. Nostalgia because it looks back in a rather sentimental way at what will be my past. One day, for example, I was driving down the street when I caught sight of a dad walking a dog, and on his back was a little toddler bundled up to look like the Michelin Man, crammed into his backpack carrier. Suddenly, I was overcome with a wave of tenderness for this model of paternal nurturing. For all I know, he could have been doing it grudgingly. But in my state of untimely nostalgia, I saw how precious and dear it was, all the more so because the relatively recent ascent of paternal nurturing may be fleeting. We like to romanticize how children see the world, that they're more easily moved to awe and wonder. I don't know about that, but we've heard hymns and readings this morning that make that assertion, and I'm not going to argue with poets. For myself, I am happy to see the world through my aged eyes. I appreciate how beautiful is the ordinary, how, in fact, when you know your days are numbered, there is no ordinary. A dad with a bundled up toddler in his backpack, walking a dog, is a thing worth cherishing. It is this sense of quiet cherishing, this persistent, urgent insistence in the preciousness of each thing that makes me want to hold fast to everything, every crimson sunset, every romp in the park with the dog, every silly Saturday spent with the grandchild, every dinner sitting across from my husband. In fact, every tedious board meeting. They're not. Every payment due that comes in the mail, every disappointment when the promised visit doesn't happen, every bit of it. And all of my years of experience have taught me that letting go is right and hard. Holding fast and letting go. Holding fast and letting go. In the end, it is a story of time, but we don't call it that. It is a story of deep delight. Sarah?
you, Debra. That was beautiful. I know there is a little bit of a controversy among this congregation around the word elder. Many of you have shared with me you don't love it when I use the word. But I use it as a term of great admiration and high esteem. And in many spiritual communities, elders hold a place of high esteem. They are the keepers of knowledge and wisdom of a lifetime of lived experience. They are the storytellers of eras past, giving us perspective to build new stories for the future. Debra's reflection reminded me of some of the great elders in my life, my grandparents and mentors, who held fast to love, whose greatest gift was that a big love was more important than everything else, and one could let go of the rules. I aspired to elderhood to that day when I too didn't have to follow the rules. And there are few truly multi-generational spaces for community in our world where generations can come together and receive the wisdom and vision of the elders in our midst. And in these times when so much that we hold sacred feels like it's just being swept away, we are so very lucky to have a beloved community to which we can anchor ourselves and find spiritual sustenance. We hold fast to the blessings and care and love and connection that we each give and receive. And we are blessed to have a large cadre of elders among us, and I want to take a moment to recognize you who are this community's elders, those of you with us today by decade. So if you are on Zoom, we invite you to type your name in the chat or raise your hand or put an emoji on your screen when your decade is called so that we can recognize you as well. So if you are an elder among us in your 90s, we invite you to please rise. No one know 90s? I know some of you are on Zoom out there, though. If you are an elder among us in your 80s, we invite you to rise. Stay standing, friends, stay standing. And for those of you who are elders in your 70s, we invite you to join and rise. Friends, take a moment to look around you and see the faces of the elders in our congregation, to know that when you need some wisdom or some big, unfettered love, these might be some of the faces and spaces you can turn to. Thank you, elders, for blessing us.
We're now going to participate in a crafted litany for our elders. And so we're going to ask you to think about what words come to mind, short, brief, when you think of elders or elderhood. And Patricia is going to go around and capture a few of those. And while she's busy doing that, Sarah and I are going to try and capture those words. And you don't have to be afraid of characteristics that you might consider negative, like slow drivers. Because we're gonna turn those into a virtue. So you don't censor yourself. You can be honest. Those young among you, tell the truth. It's okay. So when I think of elders, I think of, and raise your hand when you're ready.
Mocking the performative. When you're putting on a show, people who put on a show. It's funny.
Being my authentic self.
Crabbiness.
The loss of memory.
Falling down.
Perspective.
Always willing to play.
Surviving.
Good food.
And one more.
Doing what I please.
Thank you. We're going to take just a little minute here and weave these into a litany. Talk amongst yourselves about elderhood. You ready? Okay, here's how it goes. I'm going to read the prompt stem when I think of elders, and then I'm going to read, we are going to read what we turn that into, and you will repeat that phrase. So, just the second part. When I think of elders, I think of being authentic. We honor our elders' gift of honest self-awareness. Together, we honor our elders' gift of honest self-awareness. When I think of elders, I think of loss of family. We honor our elders' gift of valuing people when you can. We honor our elders' gift of valuing people when you can. When I think of elders, I think of perspective. We honor our elders' gift of being able to see many sides. We honor our elders' gifts of being able to see many sides. When I think of elders, I think of surviving. We honor our elders' gifts of being able to persevere. We honor our elders' gifts of being able to persevere. When I think of elders, I think of doing what I please. We honor our elders' gift of freedom to express our true selves. We honor our elders' gifts of freedom to express our true selves.
When I think of elders, I think of mocking the performance. We honor our elders' gift of eccentricity and being exactly who you are. We honor our elders' gift of eccentricity and being exactly who you are. When I think of elders, I think of crabbiness. We honor our elders' gift of full self-expression. We honor our elders' gift of full self-expression. When I think of elders, I think of falling down. We honor our elders' gift of not worrying about the judgment of others. We honor our elders' gift of not worrying about the judgment of others. When I think of elders, I think of willingness to play. We honor our elders' gift of deep delight. We honor our elders' gift of deep delight. When I think of elders, I think of good food. We honor our elders' gift of savoring every moment. We honor our elders' gift of savoring every moment. May we honor all these gifts and more, the prayers and the dreamings, the savoring and the full self-expression, the courage and the vision, blessing the wisdom of experience with gratitude and admiration for the elders of this community. Amen. Friends, I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and place your hands over your heart for our closing blessing. Let us honor and celebrate the beloved elders among us. Let us welcome their stories and cherish their wisdom, holding them close as each new generation becomes the new seekers of truth, keepers of faith, and makers of peace. Let us carry forward their courage, vision, and dreamings. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.
So glad I didn't have to stand. Yes.